Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Christmas has always been hard for me. Even now, as an adult, I flinch when the music starts playing in stores. I skip the movies, avoid the lights, and never decorate my apartment. People assume it's because I'm not festive or I'm a Grinch, but the truth is far more complicated and painful. Let me take you back. I'm 28 now. When I was 8 years old, I adored my dad. He was gentle, funny, and the only person in the world who seemed to truly love me. He used to tell me bedtime stories with my name as the hero. He packed my lunch every day with dumb notes, and he gave me a bracelet on my 7th birthday, silver, with a tiny heart charm. He told me I was his heart, that as long as I had that bracelet, I'd always have him with me. At the time, I didn't realize my mother was cheating on him. I was too young to notice the late nights, the secret phone calls, or how cold she had grown toward him. But I'll never forget the day everything cracked. My dad came home early from work one day and found her on the couch with another man, the man who would eventually become my stepfather. There was yelling, then silence, then divorce. She married him 6 months later. My father was devastated. The man who once told stories and left me silly notes stopped smiling altogether. He moved into a small apartment, and I visited every other weekend. He still made pancakes when I came, still tried to smile, but there was a hollowness in his eyes that I didn't understand at the time. My mother was the opposite. She seemed happier. Her new husband, Mark, moved into our house immediately. He was smug, loud, and cruel in ways that didn't leave bruises but still hurt. He'd make fun of the cartoons I watched, call my interests lame, mock my handwriting, and constantly compare me to his daughter, my new stepsister Megan, who was only a year younger than me but treated like royalty. It was clear from the beginning that Mark didn't like me. He'd roll his eyes when I walked into a room. He'd tell my mom I was spoiled if I asked for anything. He even told me once that I was lucky. She didn't ship me off to live with my dad permanently. When I was 10, my father was diagnosed with cancer. I still remember the sterile smell of the hospital and how small he looked in that bed. He tried to stay strong for me. I clutched that bracelet every night, wishing I could take his sickness away. He passed away less than a year later. My world collapsed. I wasn't the same after that. I cried in school. I stopped talking much. My teachers noticed, but my mother didn't. She told me to stop wallowing. Mark said I was too dramatic and to toughen up. Megan, coached by her father, made fun of me for pretending to be sad. Fast forward a few years. I was 15. My mother and Mark were still married. He drank more by then and got meaner when he did. He never hit me, but the things he said were like punches. No wonder your dad croaked. He couldn't deal with you. You'll end up just like him, pathetic and alone. I begged my mom to stand up for me. She never did. She'd say, "You're being sensitive," or worse, "Don't provoke him." That Christmas, the one that still makes my chest ache, everything exploded. It started days earlier. Mark's extended family came to visit, and my mother was obsessed with playing perfect wife and perfect family. She insisted I call Mark Dad in front of his relatives just for the holidays. I refused. I wasn't going to rewrite reality to appease her fantasy. Mark heard me refuse. He didn't say anything at the time. Christmas morning came. I walked into the living room, expecting, maybe hoping, for some small spark of joy. There were gifts under the tree. Megan was already tearing through hers. My mom was smiling. Mark sat in his recliner, sipping coffee, like he owned the world. There was nothing for me. No stocking, no packages, nothing. I thought maybe mine were in a different pile. I asked about it, quietly, hesitantly. My mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Actions have consequences." Then she told me she had given my gifts to Megan, every single one. She said I embarrassed her in front of Mark's family and refused to accept the man who raised me, so I didn't deserve to be rewarded. Mark laughed. Megan shrugged and held up a new necklace, clearly one that had been meant for me. And then it got worse. My mother walked over to the small box on the fireplace, the one where I kept the bracelet my father gave me. She opened it, took the bracelet out, and handed it to Megan. "She likes pretty things," she said, "and your father would want you to share." I remember screaming, like an animal. I grabbed it back, and Mark grabbed me. He didn't hit me, but he grabbed my wrist hard enough to bruise and said, "Don't scream in this house." I locked myself in my room and didn't come out until the next day. That was the moment I stopped seeing her as my mother. When I turned 18, I left. I packed everything I could fit into a suitcase, moved in with a friend, and never looked back. I worked 2 jobs to survive, went to therapy when I could afford it, and slowly, painfully, rebuilt my self-worth. I went full no contact. I blocked her number. I never gave her my address. I disappeared from her world, and she let me. That was 10 years ago. Last week, she found me. She sent me a message through my work email, begging me to talk. I ignored it. Then she sent flowers to my job. Then she called from a blocked number and left a voicemail crying. Mark died 6 months ago. Apparently, it was sudden. Heart attack. She says Megan moved out years ago and hasn't spoken to her since. That she's alone now. That she has no one left. That she thinks about me every day. She wants to reconnect. She wants to heal. She wants forgiveness. I sat with that voicemail for days, played it over and over, listened to her cry, listened to her say, "I know I wasn't perfect." Listened to her say she misses her daughter. And all I could think about was that Christmas morning. All I could think about was my bracelet, my dad, the look on her face when she punished me for refusing to lie. I never replied. Now, some distant relatives, ones I've barely spoken to, are suddenly reaching out. They say she's a different person, that grief changes people, that I should let go of the past because she's all alone. But where were they when I was 15 and sobbing into my pillow? Where were they when I had bruises and no gifts and a broken heart? I don't owe her peace just because she finally feels the pain she spent years ignoring in me. So, Reddit, tell me honestly, am I an a-hole for refusing to reconnect with my mother 10 years after she stole my Christmas gifts, gave away my late father's bracelet, and let her husband emotionally destroy me, just because she's now old, alone, and abandoned? Not the a-hole. OP's mother didn't just fail OP. She actively chose to betray, humiliate, and discard her for a man she cheated with. She sacrificed OP's childhood on the altar of her new relationship, handed OP's grief to a monster, and then tried to rewrite history for the sake of appearances. And now that she's reaping the loneliness she sowed, she wants OP's forgiveness as her consolation prize. No, OP owes her nothing. OP survived her. That's enough. And now let's hear community's opinion. She let a man mock your dead father. She let him strip you of your dignity, of your memories, and worst of all, of your innocence. And she joined in. She gave your father's bracelet to her stepdaughter like it meant nothing. And now that she's lost everything she chose over you, she wants you back. Nope. That's not healing. That's manipulation with tears on top. Not the a-hole, and I hope you never second-guess your strength again. The way your mother weaponized Christmas, a time that should have brought you comfort, to emotionally destroy you is beyond cruel. That wasn't a parenting mistake. That was calculated punishment for daring to love your real dad. And now she's lonely. Good. Let her sit in the silence she forced on you. Let her wonder why no one's coming to save her. You're not her therapist. You're not her second chance. You're the survivor of her choices, not the a-hole. You were the child. She was the adult. And she failed at every turn. She abandoned your grief. She let you be emotionally abused. She gave away your memories like they were disposable. You didn't go no contact. You went no more abuse. And now the abuser is crying? No one cried for you when you screamed on Christmas morning. Keep walking forward. She chose her path. Now you choose peace, not the a-hole, and honestly, I'm proud of you. My parents passed away in an accident last year. In the days following the accident, after having found the substantial life insurance policies, but no will, we agreed to split everything between my bro, sis, and I. I'm 27, brother 28, sister 34. In the weeks after, my aunt and uncle reached out to help with the process. My brother's wife insisted we keep everything between ourselves because situations like this can tear families apart when money gets involved. My sister-in-law jumped in and organized estate appointments. My brother quit his job to become the executor of my parents' estate, and everyone moved into my parents' house, where I was staying, to help me. My sister quit her job shortly after. We all agreed to sort out the financial stuff later and focused on surviving and mourning. I have chronic illness and live in America. Sister-in-law stepped in to help me pay for medicine, $120 a month at the clinic. In 6 months, we were selling my parents' house. My siblings had tallied every expense, including their loss of wages, and sent me a $60K bill. The inheritances were paid out. My brother and I got more than my sister. My brother and sister-in-law came up with a plan to give my sis some from each inheritance to equalize it. While my bro did estate stuff, my sister-in-law contacted realtors to help sell the other properties my parents owned. Now we're selling the final property, and sister-in-law proposed to make it equal between all of us for all the work she put in, where we divided up the money from the houses 4 ways. Me, my bro, my sis, and my sister-in-law each get 1/4. She also added to this plan if anyone did not show up to agreed-upon workdays for repairs, 1% of their share per day would be taken and divided between the other 3. I could not make it to all the workdays due to the pesky chronic illness I mentioned before. I offered to come by the house to work on it when they weren't present, but they all agreed that didn't count because how could they know I had done any work? It's time to sign the final papers to sell the house, and I made my intent to not give anyone any extra money clear. I only feel I need to pay my sister-in-law for medicine. My reasoning is if they were going to nickel and dime me, then perhaps the loving family relationships I had always wanted don't actually exist, and they're all in this for themselves. To me, they've made it clear that they aren't and weren't interested in any relationship with me beyond what they could get. Sister-in-law is now texting my aunt, who doesn't like sister-in-law helping this much, to butt out and saying I am in a manic episode. I'm not bipolar. Having been executor of 2 estates, I can tell you nothing about it involved quitting my job. Unless your parents are leaving a multi-million-dollar estate with a foundation, this is unnecessary. So charging you 6 months loss of wages is ridiculous. There were a couple of probate court dates that involved 1 day off work, but your brother and sister-in-law are taking advantage. Also, why does your sister-in-law feel entitled to a share of your parents' estate? It should be divided into thirds, and she shares in her husband's share. I would definitely lawyer up, as you are being bilked. Your brother and sister quit their jobs to handle an estate? What the duck? How big is this estate? How is this even plausible? It sounds like there were enormous red flags from the beginning. Your married brother would be entitled to 1/3 of the estate, not extra because he had his wife who helped. Not the a-hole, but we all agreed to sort out the financial stuff later and focused on surviving and mourning. Worst thing you could have done. If any family members had an agreed-upon expectation of receiving more for services rendered, that's fair, but otherwise stick to your guns here and don't cite anything that's not fair. I'll keep it short. My brother's ex-fiancée, Bai, cheated on him and got pregnant from it. Bro called it off immediately, but stayed until paternity was confirmed. Wasn't his. Me and my other brother Nick, 23 male, and our father, 68 male, did our best to support him through this time. Other sister Judy, 34 female, and mom, 65 female, basically supported Bai, but saying we're not picking sides, it's just that the girl is pregnant and is in distress and needs someone in her corner. Bro obviously didn't take this well and cut contact with both of them. It caused a huge rift between all of us. My dad was so disappointed in my mother, and their relationship is still not what it was. Mom kept visiting Bai's child after it was born and buying them gifts. Both Nick and I are low contact with Mom and Judy at this point. In the meantime, Bro found someone else, a lovely girl called Amy, 28 female, and they got married. Mom and Judy, of course, threw a fit over not being invited, and what they did had to be explained to them all over again to make them shut up. I think this is where they started realizing the gravity of what they did playing happy family with the creature who cheated on my brother. Every time Dad, Nick, and I would get ready to visit Bro, they'd start making comments. We used to go on trips with Amy and Bro a lot, and it produced fights that lasted up to a week. Fast forward to now. Bro and Amy have just gotten their first child and we're elated. Mom and Judy are upset we're not sharing any info about any of it. Bro's orders. Since Amy and Bro are new parents and are preoccupied with the child, we thought our monthly trip was not going to happen, and we're fine with it. But they're the sweetest and have given us keys to their holiday house in the mountains, so we're going to spend a week there anyways. We were obviously excited, and this seems to be the final straw for Mom and Judy, because just last night they've sat us down and told us that this can't go on anymore, and we need to speak to Bro about mending fences. Nick just said no and left. I decided to humor the conversation and asked them if they are willing to cut contact with Bai. They just stared at me and started making excuses. I said they can't expect Bro to even talk to them after what they've done. The truth is, I'm tired of living like this, in a divided family. But I can't deny they've really wronged my brother and caused irreparable damage to the entire family. Judy was crying after Dad lectured them, but I can't really muster up the empathy to feel bad for them. What can I do here? Is this way of living sustainable? How do I have a productive conversation with Judy and Mom? Should I forget my own feelings and have a talk with Bro about it? You speaking with your bro on their behalf can also backfire, as he may believe you are starting to side with them. Also, you cannot fix this situation at all, as they are unwilling to cut contact with the source of this tension, Bai. It is up to them to take action and mend fences, not you. Unfortunately, if you want your sister and mother in your life, there is no ending this situation until your sister and mother take the necessary actions. Your brother has every right to keep his distance from both of them, so honestly, what you do is continue to support him. They're clearly just wanting access to his baby, and that's not enough of a reason to pressure him in any way towards reconciliation if he doesn't want it. It's not your job to play peacemaker, and that's an unfair situation for your mom and Judy to put you in. Even if your mom did cut Bai out, the damage is already done, so that doesn't change the situation for your brother. Stay minding your own business and let her deal with the consequences of her own actions. Okay, so I'm absolutely livid. So I'm sorry if I sound angry and rough, cause I am. Today, my older sister, she's 20, and one of her close friends, whom I met on several occasions, I'll name her Witch, 25, cause that's what she was today. So my older sister was in an accident a couple of years ago. She has a scar on her right shoulder, and her face was messed up, so she had to get plastic surgery, but not the shoulder, cause she don't want to spend too much money and she could just cover it up. The witch knows all about this stuff, about my sister, and was aware she was very self-conscious about it, to the point of a lot of her clothes are barely revealing. She's only comfortable with showing her body to her family, and wears dresses and tank tops at home, cause she knows we won't judge her. She has this teardropped plunge dress that looks ducking amazing. So today, the witch was choosing dresses for her bridesmaids, and my sister was one of them. As they were choosing dresses, my sister asked Witch if it would be okay if she wears something over her shoulder. Although the scar was slightly faded, it's still visible if you go up to her. The witch said no, because she wants the dress to be short and strapless, and ignored her pleas. My sister said she understood, because it was her wedding, so she tried not to say anything else, and that on the day of the wedding, she'll probably wear a jacket and maybe ask one of her makeup friends who can help. As the bridesmaid was trying out dresses, the witch forced my sister to be one of the models so she could see how the dresses looked like on her. At first, my sister kept saying she was a bit shy and didn't want to since she already had all the other bridesmaids trying them out. But the witch was insistent and kept saying it's her wedding, it's her big day, and she doesn't want my sister to duck it up. So my sister gave in and reluctantly wore one of the strapless dresses and showed it to the witch. Know this, the witch has never seen the scar before because my sister had always been covering it. So I don't know what word or words the witch said, but my sister said the main thing that got me riled up, and the rest I went with my imagination. Witch. Okay, ew, that scar is real disturbing. It's gonna look bad for the pictures. This shook my sister up. Just saying this was salt to injury, but what she said next was like ducking fire to her wounds. Witch. I knew you said it looked bad, but geez, you should have warned me that it looked that bad. Maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding. The witch laughed, thinking that her tasteless joke was ducking funny. My sister wanted to cry, but just laughed it off and agreed because she didn't want to ruin the witch's day since it's her wedding soon. The second the shopping finished, she ran into a nearby McDonald's, called me to run over there to help her before she broke down in public because she's too shaken up to go on the bus to head home. I called Uber and got there as soon as I could. I gave my sister her favorite black hoodie because I knew she hated showing anyone her weak moments and her tears, and the hoodie was big enough to hide her face. I called an Uber back and she slowly told me the main points of this story, but since she was a bit quiet, I couldn't hear all her words. She's currently still crying in her room and hasn't left it since this morning. I am extremely ducking pissed. This witch had the audacity to insult my sister when she herself looks like a bloody pasty horse. My sister looks 10 times better with and without a scar. She made it sound like my sister was ugly because of it. Okay, I'm done venting. Sorry if I sound extremely aggressive. I'm not sorry, I meant every word of that. My sister is beautiful, and no one can say otherwise. Update. Now I'm even more angry. So my sister finally came out of her room and told me something that pissed me off even more. So my sister had a talk with the witch about how uncomfortable she felt about the witch's comments about her scar, and her response was absolutely unbelievable. Witch: listen, no hard feelings, all right? But I can't stand knowing you had plastic surgery. It makes me feel so uncomfortable about how fake you are. At first, I thought you were absolutely beautiful, only to realize all of that was plastic, and that scar made you look even worse. If you're going to have plastic surgery, at least make the scar look better. You should be glad I'm giving you the one-shoulder dress. Otherwise, people are going to talk about how bad it looks, and it's going to ruin my big day because all eyes are on you. Again, no hard feelings. I'm just telling you the truth. Anyway, toodaloo. Someone is going to have to hold me back from slapping this witch right across the face, and I'm going to get charged for assault unless someone holds me back. Second edit. So, my sister woke up this morning with major puffy eyes from crying, and I showed her the comments made on this post, and she started bawling and said, "Bless them." She said she isn't sure about showing the text to the fiancé, since they've been together for nearly 7 years, so she's sure he knows by now what she's really like. Also, one of the bridesmaids reached out to my sister and basically said they were sorry for not standing up for her, and that some of them were talking about ghosting the wedding and blocking the bride on the big day, which got me and my sister laughing our heads off. I fell out of my chair laughing. Still hurts. Our parents don't know about this whole ordeal because, let's just say, we're very comfortable with them. They're not the worst of the bunch, but not the best of the bunch, so we don't talk with them about this stuff and only tell each other. Let the fiancé know what a shallow person he is marrying, because for me, this would be a deal breaker. My guess is that the witch has very low self-esteem. Your sister doesn't need friends like her. I like the idea of ghosting and blocking the witch. The whole thing is messed up. My fiancé, 27 female, and I, 32 male, are getting married next month. This whole drama started when my mom and sister insisted on getting involved in my fiancé's wedding dress choice. They had offered to show her different brands and styles, but she told them she already had one in mind that she called her dream wedding dress. Both mom and sister didn't like this and asked to accompany my fiancé in her dress shopping. She was generous enough to say yes, although they were both stressing her out. They went dress shopping, and my mom and sister tried once again pushing my fiancé to pick a dress they liked, but she refused and found what she was looking for. The dress was kept at the apartment. Few days ago, my fiancé called me crying, saying she just got home and couldn't find her wedding dress. I rushed home and we looked all over the place, almost calling the police to make a report about a theft taking place. My mom and sister came over to calm my fiancé down and offered her a surprise, which was a wedding dress they bought for her. The same wedding dress they wanted her to buy, but she declined. My fiancé got upset by that, and what's worse was my neighbor later called to tell me he saw my mom and sister show up to the apartment around 11 a.m. and leaving with a big bag. I started putting the pieces together, from my neighbor's statement to my mom and sister's offer to my fiancé, and came to a conclusion that they took my fiancé's wedding dress and hid it in an attempt to force her to wear what they chose for her. I blew up at them, and they kept denying till my dad brought the dress back. I yelled at them and told them they were officially uninvited from the wedding. Mom started crying, while my sister kept arguing with me about how my fiancé has been leaving them out of the entire wedding planning and treating them as strangers. I told her she and Mom overstepped, and she shouldn't have done what they did and disrespected my fiancé's boundaries like that. Things have calmed down, and the family are asking me to let this go and re-invite Mom and sister to my wedding because they had no malicious intent and were just trying to help, and were planning to return the dress, that is all. But I stood firm on my decision, even after they offered to apologize. Not the a-hole. Don't let them come. They'll do something to ruin the dress, and, surprise, they have the other dress with them. What they did was unforgivable. I would cut them off completely. Yes, and so not the a-hole. Also, who genuinely thinks this wasn't malicious intent? Are they that dense or flying monkeys in the fog? Because forcing a grown woman to wear something she definitely turned down is pretty malicious. They didn't graciously offer her a dress. They tried to force their opinion on her. How unhinged. Also, hire security and need to put passwords on all your vendors yesterday.